I'm Hannah Bennett, 30 years old, a community college counselor in Chicago who spent years being the odd one out in a family obsessed with wealth and status. While my siblings, Abigail and Nathan, built empires of privilege, I chose a life of purpose, guiding students through their futures at a modest community college. My family called me the disappointment, the one who traded ambition for idealism. But when my grandfather Walter's will was read, their laughter at my worthless inheritance, a battered cigar box, turned to shock when I uncovered stock certificates worth $50 million. That moment changed everything, exposing their true colors and setting me on a path to redefine what wealth really means. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Chapter 1: The Weight of Expectation. The elevator's low hum felt like a countdown as it climbed to the 42nd floor of Lawson & Carter's gleaming Chicago office. Polished mahogany paneling and plush leather chairs screamed wealth, a world I'd never belonged to. I tugged at my thrift store blazer, its frayed cuffs a stark contrast to the opulence around me. 30, I'd grown accustomed to feeling like an outsider in my family, but today, 3 weeks after Grandpa Walter's death, that sense of displacement pressed down harder than ever. He'd been my rock, the only one who saw worth in my life as a counselor at Lincoln Community College, where I guided first-generation students toward their futures. To the rest of my family, I was a disappointment, scraping by while Abigail, 35, ruled as a hedge fund manager and Nathan, 38, reigned as a real estate tycoon. Stepping into the conference room, I felt their eyes on me, a silent judgment. Abigail commanded the head of the table, her Chanel suit flawless, her manicured nails likely costing more than my monthly rent, tapping her phone as she scrolled with practiced ease. Her husband, Ethan, 37, a tech entrepreneur, toyed with his smartwatch, his gaze flickering to stock tickers with restless intensity. Nathan lounged in a tailored Tom Ford suit, exuding the smug confidence of someone who just sealed a multi-million-dollar deal. His wife, Lauren, 34, a luxury real estate agent, leaned close, her diamond earrings catching the light as she whispered to him. The room was filled out by Aunt Evelyn, 62, a retired socialite whose permanent frown seemed etched into her face, Uncle Richard, 65, a commercial property developer with a calculating stare, and Cousin Olivia, 29, who'd married into a banking dynasty and wore her privilege like a second skin. Their glances ranged from pity to thinly veiled contempt, a reminder of my role as the family's black sheep. I chose a seat at the table's far end, as distant from their orbit as I could manage. Growing up, I'd always been on the fringes. Abigail and Nathan were the golden siblings, their successes trumpeted at every family gathering, while my choice to study social work and become a counselor was dismissed as cute or naive. Their voices would fill the room with tales of deals and acquisitions, while I sat quietly, my dreams of helping others deemed insignificant. But Grandpa Walter was different. On his creaky porch, he'd share stories of his life as a factory worker, scraping together savings to invest in companies no one believed in. His eyes would spark as he spoke of young Steve Jobs or a fledgling Amazon, his voice alive with a vision I couldn't fully grasp. "Hannah," he'd say, "wealth isn't about what you own, it's about what you build with it." I thought he was just humoring me, but sitting in that sterile conference room, a flicker of something, hope, maybe, stirred in my chest, though I couldn't name it. Mr. James Carter, Grandpa's attorney for over 4 decades, entered with an air that silenced the room. His silver hair gleamed under the lights, his bespoke suit a testament to his authority. Yet when he shook my hand, his eyes softened, a warmth breaking through his professional veneer. "Hannah," he said, "Walter always spoke highly of you." Before I could process the kindness, Abigail's laugh sliced through the air, sharp and cruel. "Of what, exactly? Her student loan repayment plan?" The room erupted in chuckles, Nathan shaking his head with a patronizing smile, as if I were a child who'd never grow up. "Some people are just happy with less," he said, his tone thick with condescension. Those words stung, echoing years of criticism when I chose social work over finance, when I rejected Nathan's offer to join his firm as an assistant, when I stayed at the college instead of chasing their version of success. To them, my life was a series of missteps, a refusal to play their game of wealth and status. Chapter 2: The Will Reading. Mr. Carter opened his briefcase, pulling out a thick folder and several envelopes. "Walter spent years crafting this will," he said, his voice steady. "Every decision was deliberate." Abigail leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. She and Nathan had always assumed they'd inherit the bulk of Grandpa's estate, the Gold Coast penthouse, the real estate holdings, the investment portfolio. It made sense. They were the ones who'd carried the Bennett name into Chicago's elite circles. "The primary estate," Mr. Carter announced, "including the penthouse, the real estate trust, and the core investment portfolio, will be divided equally between Abigail Bennett Wright and Nathan Bennett." The room exhaled in relief. Abigail clapped her hands, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. Nathan was already on his phone, probably calculating their new net worth. Lauren whispered about redecorating the penthouse. Smaller bequests followed. Aunt Evelyn got a collection of rare art. Uncle Richard inherited Grandpa's vintage watch collection. Olivia received his first edition books. Each gift was met with polite nods and genuine pleasure. Then Mr. Carter's eyes found mine. "To Hannah Bennett," he said, his tone carrying a weight I couldn't decipher, "Walter leaves his personal effects and the contents of his study desk." The room froze for a moment before Abigail burst into laughter, a cruel, unrestrained sound. "His desk," she gasped. "Hannah gets his old pens and paper clips?" Nathan smirked, adding, "At least you'll have some mementos to dust off at the college." The laughter spread, Uncle Richard muttering about fitting gifts for fitting people, Aunt Evelyn offering a pitying tisque that stung more than outright mockery. Mr. Carter's expression shifted, a flicker of something like amusement crossing his face. He reached into his briefcase and placed a worn cigar box on the table in front of me. Its wood was scratched, the brass hinges tarnished, but it carried a weight that felt almost sacred. "Specifically," he said, "Hannah inherits this box and its contents." The laughter grew louder, Abigail wiping tears from her eyes. "Oh, Grandpa," she said, her voice dripping with fake fondness, "always the jokester." My hands trembled as I reached for the box, not from shame but from a strange intuition. The wood was warm, the weight inside shifting slightly. I ignored Abigail's taunt to "open your treasure chest" and lifted the lid. Inside were yellowed papers, old photos, and what looked like official documents. I pulled out a photograph of Grandpa as a younger man, standing next to an ancient computer, his smile wide and proud. Handwritten notes on the back read, "First investment, 1980. Beneath the photo were certificates, their heavy paper bearing official seals and elegant script. I lifted the first one, my breath catching. "Apple Incorporated," I read aloud, my voice barely audible. 1,200 shares, purchased August 1980. The room went silent, the kind of quiet that feels like the world holding its breath. I set it aside and pulled out another. Microsoft Corporation, 600 shares, purchased March 1986. My hand shook as I read the third. Amazon.com, 2,500 shares, purchased May 1997. Abigail's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing. Nathan leaned forward, his confidence cracking. "Those can't be real," he said, but his voice wavered. Grandpa was a factory worker. He didn't know tech. Mr. Carter cleared his throat. Walter was exceptionally prescient about technology. He began investing in the 1980s when these companies were just ideas. He held every share through crashes and bubbles. Kept pulling certificates, Google, Tesla, Netflix, each one a piece of a fortune built over decades. The bottom was a letter in Grandpa's handwriting, addressed to me. I opened it, my eyes blurring as I read aloud. My dearest Hannah, if you're reading this, your family has shown their true colors. You were the only one who visited me for me, not for what I could offer. You listened to my stories about computers and investments, and you understood that wealth is a tool, not a trophy. Chapter 3: The Shock of Wealth. The room felt like it was collapsing under the weight of Jonathan's words. Abigail's husband, his fingers flying across his phone, spoke in a hollow tone that barely masked his disbelief. Apple's at $892 per share, he said, his eyes locked on the screen. Microsoft's at $435. Amazon's at $3,400. The numbers hung in the air, heavy and ominous, like a storm cloud ready to burst. My mind reeled, calculating in a daze the 1,200 Apple shares alone were worth over $1 million. Before I could fully grasp it, Mr. Carter's voice cut through the haze. Based on current market prices and dividend reinvestments, he said calmly, the portfolio is valued at approximately $50 million. The words hit me like a physical blow, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. $50 million. In that battered cigar box. Abigail lurched to her feet, her chair crashing backward with a sound that echoed my own shock. $50 million, she shrieked, her polished composure shattering. In a cigar box? Her voice was raw, a mix of outrage and betrayal, as if I'd stolen something that was rightfully hers. Nathan's face drained of color, his lawyer's mind scrambling for a flaw in this impossible reality. This is impossible, he muttered, his voice thin, lacking conviction. Grandpa didn't have that kind of money. But Mr. Carter remained unshaken, his steady gaze meeting mine. Walter lived modestly but invested brilliantly, he said. He planned this for over 40 years, and he chose Hannah to carry his legacy. His words landed like a lifeline, but they also tightened the knot of responsibility in my chest. Me? Why me? The room erupted into chaos. Abigail paced, her heels clicking furiously, her face a mask of barely contained fury. Finn muttered calculations under his breath, his tech bro confidence unraveling. Lauren gripped the table, her knuckles white, her diamond earrings no longer a symbol of triumph but a reminder of her diminished share. Aunt Evelyn's forced congratulations. Well, Hannah, how fortunate for you, dripped with envy, her tight smile betraying years of looking down on me. Olivia, suddenly warm, reached for my hand across the table. Hannah, darling, we must catch up soon, she said, her voice syrupy but her eyes calculating. Uncle Richard chimed in, his tone overly earnest. Walter always praised your heart, Hannah. Their sudden kindness felt like a betrayal, a stark contrast to the years of dismissal, the snide comments at family dinners, the pitying glances that branded me the failure. My stomach churned with a mix of vindication and unease. Their warmth was as hollow as their earlier scorn. As the family filed out, their voices muted and awkward, Abigail approached, her heels clicking with deliberate purpose. Hannah, I'm happy for you, she said, her smile tight, her eyes cold and calculating angles I couldn't yet decipher. But family comes first. We should talk about how to handle this. Her words were warm, but they felt like a trap, a subtle claim to control what wasn't hers. I nodded, my throat too tight to respond, afraid my voice would betray the storm of emotions, shock, pride, fear swirling inside me. Mr. Carter caught me before I left, his voice low and steady. Walter said you'd know what to do with this because you never saw wealth as an endgame, he said. Come to my office tomorrow to finalize the transfers. His words echoed Grandpa's porch talks, but they also pressed a weight onto my shoulders, a legacy I wasn't sure I could carry. As I clutched the cigar box, its worn wood warm against my trembling hands, I felt both anchored by Grandpa's faith and terrified of what it demanded. Chapter 4: The Media Storm. The drive back to my Logan Square apartment felt like an escape, the cigar box sitting heavy on the passenger seat of my 12-year-old Toyota. sworn would seem to pulse with the secret it held, a secret that had turned my world upside down. My phone buzzed incessantly, each notification a jab at my fraying nerves. Abigail's text suggesting a family lunch to discuss my windfall, Nathan's voicemail offering legal advice I didn't ask for, and calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, their sudden warmth as jarring as their past indifference. By the time I parked outside my building, my voicemail was full, the weight of their expectations pressing against my chest. I sat there, staring at the neon glow of Rosie's Diner across the street, where I'd worked weekends in college to cover rent. Its familiar sign was a lifeline to a life where I was just Hannah, the counselor who listened to regular stories, not Hannah, the multimillionaire thrust into a spotlight I never wanted. Inside, Lucas Carter, my 32-year-old partner and a high school history teacher, sat at our cluttered kitchen table, grading papers under the dim light of a thrift store lamp. His steady presence was a balm, untouched by the manipulative games my family played. "How'd it go?" he asked, his brown eyes searching mine with a quiet intensity that made me feel seen. I handed him Grandpa's letter, its creased pages trembling in my hands. As he read, I forced out the truth. $50 million. He whistled softly, his calm voice betraying a flicker of shock. "That's more than we'd earn in 10 lifetimes. He said, his eyes wide but steady, grounding me in a moment that felt like it was slipping away. "What do you want to do with it?" His question pierced me, stirring a mix of gratitude for Grandpa's faith and terror at the responsibility it carried. I didn't know the answer, only that I didn't want yachts or mansions, just to honor the man who believed in me. That night, sleep eluded me, Lucas's question echoing in my mind. I lay awake, the cigar box's shadow looming in the dark, its contents a promise and a burden. I wanted to build something meaningful to prove Grandpa's trust wasn't misplaced, but doubt gnawed at me. Could I handle this? By morning, my world had fractured further. My phone was a war zone, 17 missed calls, 40 texts, 10 voicemails. Reporters from the Chicago Tribune, WGN, even CNN were chasing the Cinderella heiress story, a label that made my skin crawl. Someone had leaked my name, and news vans now lined my street, their cameras trained on my apartment door like predators waiting for prey. Lucas peeked through the blinds, his jaw tight. "This is insane," he said. "There's a photographer across the street." I felt exposed, my private life dissected by strangers. Online articles branded me the diner heiress, speculating about my motives and Grandpa's sanity. Comment sections were vicious. Some accused me of manipulating an old man, others debated whether I deserved such wealth. Each word was a dagger, cutting into the identity I'd built over years of quiet service. I turned off my phone, my hands shaking, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. The life I'd known, simple, grounded, mine, was slipping away, replaced by a narrative I couldn't control. The cigar box sat silently, a reminder of Grandpa's faith, but also a beacon drawing unwanted eyes. I was trapped, caught between who I'd been and the person this fortune demanded I become, my heart racing with both fear and a stubborn resolve to prove I was worthy. Chapter 5: Navigating the Chaos. The weight of the cigar box lingered in my mind as I dialed Mr. Carter, my voice trembling with desperation for a lifeline. The media storm and my family's sudden interest had left me unmoored, and I needed guidance to navigate this surreal new reality. That afternoon, I met his crisis management team at Lawson & Carter's sleek office. Elena Vasquez, a sharp-witted consultant in her 40s, exuded a commanding calm that steadied my frayed nerves. David Kim, a media strategist with a cool professionalism, sat poised with a tablet. Dr. Rachel Stein, a wealth psychologist, offered a gentle gaze that seemed to see through my guarded exterior. As I sank into a leather chair, the room felt like a sanctuary, yet my heart raced with the fear of being overwhelmed by forces I couldn't control. Elena laid out the plan with surgical precision. Control the narrative, set family boundaries, protect the wealth. She slid a tablet toward me, displaying social media analytics, 60,000 shares of my story across platforms, each one a violation of the private life I'd cherished. "The media frenzy will peak soon," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "But your family's the real challenge. They're positioning themselves as your protectors, trying to control your decisions." Her words hit like a cold wave, confirming the unease I'd felt in Abigail's calculated smile and Nathan's insistent calls. Dr. Stein leaned forward, her tone soft but piercing. "Sudden wealth changes how people see you, Hannah. You're not just adjusting to money, you're grappling with a new identity." Her insight cut deep, naming the disorientation I'd been wrestling with. I wasn't just Hannah the counselor anymore. I was a symbol, a story, and it terrified me. The weight of Grandpa's faith felt like both a gift and a burden, demanding I redefine myself without losing who I was. That evening, Nathan's call shattered the fragile calm I'd found. His tone was sharp, edged with frustration. "This media circus is hurting the family, Hannah. We need a unified response." His words carried the same condescension I'd endured for years, but now they were laced with urgency, as if my inheritance threatened his carefully curated status. I steadied myself, clutching the phone tightly. "I'm working with Grandpa's team," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. He snapped back, "You're a counselor, not a financier. You need us." The words stung, a dagger aimed at my competence, but they also clarified his motives. He wasn't protecting me, he was protecting his place in the family hierarchy, his need to remain the one in control. My chest tightened with anger, but beneath it was a flicker of clarity. His dismissal revealed his fear of my newfound power. Over the next weeks, the pressure mounted like a tightening vice. Abigail texted about lunch, slipping in pitches for investment deals through her husband's firm, framed as family opportunities that felt more like attempts to leash me. Nathan emailed articles about inheritance scams, each one implying I was too naive to manage my wealth. Extended relatives, silent for years, surfaced with syrupy warmth, cousins sending cards, aunts calling to check in. Their sudden affection felt like a betrayal, a transactional shift that left me hollow. But with Elena's team, I built a shield, a brief public statement affirming my commitment to Grandpa's legacy, carefully worded to reclaim my narrative, legal protections to safeguard my decisions from family overreach, and security measures to guard my privacy from the relentless media. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself, but the fear lingered. Could I live up to the trust Grandpa placed in me? Or would this fortune consume the life I'd built? Chapter 6. Building Something Real. Months after the chaos of the will reading, I found my footing, a sense of purpose rising through the fog of uncertainty. Grandpa Walter's belief in community, those porch conversations about building something lasting, became my guide. I founded the Walter Bennett Learning Hub, transforming a derelict warehouse in Logan Square into a vibrant center with computer labs buzzing with code, tutoring spaces alive with discovery, and a kitchen where teens mastered culinary skills. The decision felt like a promise kept, but it was heavy with responsibility, each brick a testament to Grandpa's faith in me. I also bought Rosie's Diner, the place that had anchored my college years, and restructured it as a co-op. Longtime staff like Maria Alvarez, 45, a server who'd been my rock through countless shifts and family dramas, became part owners. As I signed the papers, her eyes searched mine, her voice soft but serious. "You're sure, Hannah? This makes you responsible for us." My heart swelled with a mix of pride and fear, fear that I might fail them, pride that I could honor their trust. I smiled, my voice steady despite the weight. "I've always been responsible for you." But inside, I wrestled with the magnitude of it, the fear that my choices could ripple through their lives in ways I couldn't predict. My family's dynamics, once a battlefield of condescension and control, began to shift, though not without tension. Abigail, who'd initially wielded her investment pitches like weapons, softened when her daughter, Sophie, 17, joined the Hub's programs. Sophie's passion for teaching younger kids coding sparked something in Abigail. I watched her volunteer, her polished exterior giving way to genuine awe as she saw the Hub's impact, kids from tough backgrounds thriving with support. She began advocating for educational equity, her voice carrying a new humility that surprised me. stirred a cautious hope in me, tempered by years of her calculated barbs, that maybe we could find common ground. Nathan, too, changed, offering legal help for the Hub's contracts. His sharp corporate mind, once used to dismiss me, now tackled bureaucratic hurdles with a fervor that spoke of rediscovery. He confided once, almost shyly, that it rekindled his passion for justice, a purpose buried under years of chasing deals. Their shifts felt like small miracles, but I remained wary, my heart guarded against the memory of their earlier manipulations. 3 years later, I stood in the Hub's bustling lobby, the air alive with the chatter of kids like 9-year-old Mia, her small fingers dancing across a keyboard as she learned to code. Her focus, her spark, felt like Grandpa's presence, a quiet nod from the man who'd seen potential where others saw nothing. Lucas, now the Hub's education director, approached with 2 coffees from our student-run cafe, his familiar grin grounding me. "Proud of this?" he asked, his eyes reflecting the same quiet strength that had steadied me through the media storm. I nodded, my throat tight with emotion, thinking of our unborn child and the values we'd pass on: kindness, community, purpose. The cigar box sat on our mantel at home, its scratched surface a silent reminder of Grandpa's lesson. True wealth isn't money, it's the legacy you build. My heart swelled with gratitude, but beneath it was a quiet fear, a question that lingered. Could I keep this legacy alive without losing myself? The Hub, the diner, the lives we'd touched, they were proof I was trying, but the weight of responsibility never eased. Each step forward felt like a tightrope walk, balancing Grandpa's faith with the daunting reality of wielding wealth for good, my soul anchored by the belief that I could make it mean something lasting. Lessons learned. As I reflect on this whirlwind journey, the lessons I've carved from it feel like anchors, grounding me in a life reshaped by an unexpected fortune. First, value lies in purpose. Grandpa Walter taught me that wealth is hollow without meaning. The $50 million in that cigar box wasn't a prize to flaunt, it was a tool to create change. Founding the Walter Bennett Learning Hub and turning Rosie's Diner into a co-op showed me that money's true power lies in uplifting others, a purpose that steadied my heart against the chaos of sudden wealth. Each decision I made was a step toward honoring Grandpa's belief in building something lasting, and it's a lesson I carry forward. Wealth is only as valuable as the good it does. Second, family isn't always blood. The relatives who mocked me as the black sheep revealed their true colors when the fortune came to light, their sudden warmth as calculated as their earlier disdain. But Lucas, my partner with his quiet strength, and Maria, the diner server who'd been my rock, proved that family is about loyalty, not lineage. Their unwavering support through the media storm and family pressures reminded me that true kinship is earned through trust, not inherited. It hurt to see my blood relatives' motives shift, but it clarified who I could truly rely on. Third, resilience beats scrutiny. The media's Cinderella heiress label and my family's attempts to control me tested my spirit. Comment sections tore me apart, and Nathan's condescending "you need us" stung deep. Yet, staying true to my values, compassion, community, integrity gave me the strength to push through. Each cruel headline and manipulative family pitch was a challenge, but leaning into Grandpa's faith in me built a resilience I didn't know I had. Taught me that external judgment fades when you hold fast to your core. Fourth, wealth amplifies you. The $50 million didn't change who I was, it magnified the beliefs I'd always held. As a counselor, I'd spent years helping students find their path. Now, with the Hub, I could amplify that mission, giving kids like Mia a chance to dream bigger. The money didn't redefine me, it gave me a megaphone to shout my values louder. But it came with a quiet fear: would I wield it wisely? That question keeps me grounded, reminding me to stay true to the person I've always been. Finally, humility holds power. That empty cigar box, mocked by my family as worthless, held a fortune because Grandpa saw value where others saw nothing. His quiet wisdom, his life of modest means and bold investments showed me that true power lies in humility, in recognizing potential in the overlooked. The box became a symbol. The greatest gifts often hide in plain sight, waiting for someone to see their worth. These lessons, etched into my soul, guide me as I build a legacy that honors Grandpa's vision and my own heart. If you loved this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's more coming tomorrow.